Uh, Welcome again to another All-Core Dev call with the Celo community. I'm Yaz, and we're gonna go over new proposals for the Celo community for CIPs that might both go on the new hard fork that is yet to be named, and also to um, the other thing being like social recovery and Otis upgrade. Can everyone see the GitHub ticket right now? No?
Yes.
Okay. Let me stop sharing and try to figure this one really out really well. Okay. It should work now. Do you see the GitHub ticket with the all core dev written on it?
No.
No? Okay.
All black.
Let's try it again. This one.
Now I see.
Yeah, you can see it. Okay, cool. My bad. I don't know what happened before. I guess I had to keep repeating it until it worked. Okay. So I pinged Victor. I'm not sure. So we're gonna skip for now CIP 39 and CIP 40. Joshua, let's go over CIP 41, which are the meta CIP for the eHard fork.
Yep. Cool. So the big theme of this hard fork is pulling in a lot of the upstream changes and maintaining Ethereum compatibility. If you can kind of scroll down to the spec, and that's probably the most interesting. So both Berlin and London had a fair amount of EIPs each. So from Berlin, there were those four. So then type transaction 2718 and 2930 will probably be bringing, at least 2718 will be bringing in directly, or at least that's a proposal to bring it in directly without any changes. And then also enabling 2930, at least having the option for the access list. Then with 2929 and 2930, it changed how gas was priced. Same with 2565. And so then going back to the start of the network, we don't have all of the Istanbul gas price changes. So some of the specifics around how gas will be repriced, I don't have kind of good numbers yet for. We are smaller than Ethereum, so some of these operations do cost less. Then from London, there was 5. One of them right off the bat, the difficulty bomb, were not proof of work, so just not applicable to us. And then the 4 are, there's 1559, which we have a version of. And we'll talk about that more later because there's a separate CIP on how to incorporate that into the Celo network. There's the base fee opcode. She can actually do with the smart contract call currently, but probably bring that in as well. So reduction in refunds to kill gas tokens. I don't think anyone's using gas tokens. And then there's a new kind of Ethereum execution format that's just starting to be worked on. It's kind of further down the line, but they're going to start rejecting contracts. On Ethereum, they found no contracts starting with that byte, and I haven't checked on the Celo network, but I suspect it's very similar. And then we're also going to propose a couple of CIPs ourselves. So the first one, I just snuck in a proposal. The block context, it's a catchy name, but it's a little harder to describe. It's probably go over the CIP at a later point, but it essentially specifies when calls to gas price minimum should be performed, and then kind of reduces the amount of work done for every transaction. Then the increased round change timer dives deep into the weeds of IBFT, our consensus algorithm, but it's just changing some numbers with how long a validator should wait before it begins a round change. And then lastly, this relaxed can pay fee is just turning a greater sign into a greater and or equal sign. And that's kind of the high level overview. Anyone have questions, comments?
Yeah, so I have a few questions. Like you said that the one for the block context, you already submitted a PR for like recently, right?
Like 5 minutes ago, yes.
That explained why I didn't see it yet in time. Okay, so I'll review that. I'll merge it when will assign a number to it for the block context. Do you have a timeline on the other two CIPs that haven't been submitted yet?
Yeah, so the other two CIPs, hopefully kind of this week, they're both relatively small changes. So I feel comfortable kind of talking through them without having a full CIP
Okay.
needed to explain it.
Okay. So right off the bat, what I think we can do is we can schedule another all-core dev call in 2 weeks' time, so that will give you an opportunity to cover the other three CIPs, if that works for you.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's one thing. The other thing, I believe, Mariano, correct me if I'm wrong, did we want to give an opportunity as well for anyone else who might have a proposal? We want to give them time before we finalize the specification and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I guess, well, I guess, Josh, I don't know if you already mentioned that we are targeting this for beginning of November, and assuming all the time that we need to do like the roll up on mainnet, the testing on Baklava, and for testing before that, we just have like okay, we have a deadline of when we need to finalize the specification and implementation of things, because that's when we need to start testing. So totally open, but the thing is that we want to keep the schedule.
Yeah, so maybe we can reach out, like maybe we can tweet about it. You know, there might be a call for proposal with the expectation that, you know, the specification makes sense, and whoever's, you know, proposing it would also be working on an implementation, or at the very least work with the core dev on that implementation, like at least from like, you know, getting their advice on it. And then if there's none and we go over the other three CIPs that Josh needs to present on, I think then we can take it to last call, then just have a specification for each, then we can begin implementation and testing. Does everyone have any feedback on the specification for the eHard fork? Basically, like the TLDR is, we're trying to bridge the gap between Celo and Ethereum, because Ethereum, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a year, or like in terms of upstream changes and including the two hard forks away, it's like about a year away. And you're trying to bridge that gap so we can be as close to upstream as possible. We're including most of the stuff that Ethereum included in their London and Berlin hard fork, except for a few things that are not applicable. One being the difficulty bomb, because we're proof of stake IBFT consensus, and difficulty bomb is applicable only for the proof of work. And it's also like the difficulty bomb is a terrible idea in general, but don't tell them I told you that. But then there's CIP 42, modification of EIP 1559. We can cover in a bit, Joshua, if you want to go over it. And EIP 2029 has different gas costs and stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to if anyone has any questions, any comments, anything you'd like to see, etc. Let's give you the floor.
I have one question concerning EIP 1559, which was recently implemented in London. One of the features is that the base fee is burned on Ethereum with the expectation that over time, especially when ETH2 is going live, that this will be leading to a deflationary token. Will this also be implemented like that in Celo?
That specific feature of EIP 1559 will not be. So I think it probably makes sense just to go straight into CIP 42 right now to talk through some of the differences, but the base fee goes to the Celo reserve and also I think a portion to the community fund rather than being burnt. Cool. Yeah, so basically, when we're talking through the differences between Ethereum's 1559 and how Celo implemented it, what we've done is at this point we have what we call a gas price minimum, which is equivalent to the base fee in Ethereum, and that's and then that has parameters for how fast it can change based on its usage. And those are set through a smart contract rather than a block header. And so that's the first half. And then the second half is how you specify fees. So Ethereum now has your kind of maximum fee for the transaction and then the tip that is sent to the miner. For Celo, what we have is we have a single gas price. So it behaves quite similarly to kind of legacy transactions on Ethereum post London. And so this proposal is actually mainly about bringing in the new kind of base max fee or fee cap in the tip, bringing that to Celo, and then kind of actually keeping our gas price minimum or base fee mechanism the same and continuing to send base fees to the reserve. That answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
No.
Cool. Any more questions on 1559?
Yeah, one quick question. Will this require changes in the wallets for compatibility?
Yeah, so like Ethereum will continue to support legacy transactions, but for the best user experience, you'll want to switch over to using 1559 style transactions, which means that the wallets do need to be updated to use a new transaction format, as well as having a new gas kind of fee UI and selection.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Alrighty, any more questions on this?
Just a comment. I think the base fee currently goes to the governance, the community fund, not the reserve.
The community fund is governance proxy.
Oh, so it will go to the community fund and not to the reserve, or both?
It's going to the community fund. That's not going to change.
Fascinating. Okay, so yeah, this is the TLDR. Unlike Ethereum, we're not burning Ethereum to a 0x0 address. We're putting that money to good use. And I hope that answered the question. So that is EIP 1559. We call it CIP 42, you know, like the meaning of life 42. Anyone watch Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? But yeah, so that's going to be included. I would put the call next week if that gives you yeah, Mariano put a comment, maybe it's interesting to sending that basically to the reserve. I mean, yeah, I mean, like reserve, as long as it's not going to waste, like the reserve, the community fund makes sense. Maybe there could be a split between them. And we have Toby, he's an economist, maybe he had some thoughts on that as well. But yeah, it can be that will be what we would consider the e-hard fork. We haven't decided on a name yet, and we're not going to decide on this call. This is not the point of this call. It's more about the technical implementation that would specify the Celo protocol. So I don't see Victor here, unless I'm mistaken. Is Victor around? Okay. So we have 2 proposals by Victor, but he's not around to cover them. Does anyone have any more comments on the e-hard fork? Otherwise, I think this kind of concludes the all-core dev call because Victor can't present yet. Okay. All right. So let me stop sharing my screen, given that there's nobody else presenting. Okay, so yeah, thank you all for joining this all-core dev call. We're gonna have another one in 2 weeks to finalize all the different CIPs being included into the e-hard fork. And after that, we're gonna do a specification freeze. So if you have any like proposals, please submit them now. If you have things that you think should be added to the Celo protocol. Otherwise, you know, it's a tight timeline. We want to catch up with Ethereum. Activation target is for the hard fork going to be around November, right?
Yep.
Roughly. And if we can't get it in November, we're not doing it in December. We're going to wait till January, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Never do a hard fork on Christmas Day. Anyways, so yeah. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to schedule next next all-core dev call for 2 weeks from now. We'll finalize the specification, and hopefully from then we'll work on implementation, and then we'll move on to deploying it on testnet before we start rolling it out to mainnet and stuff. And yeah, thank you all, and take care.
Thank you.
Bye.